My name is Dr. Justina Agnieszka Chevalier. This is my website and a consulting company called Charlise Ines Satori Consulting. And these videos will be videos that will be divided into lectures. Each of the panels of lectures will be available per video and per panel for purchase. It is also possible to purchase the lecture series for a university or your company. I will start this series with a short statement of purpose. The first series of lectures is to enable persons' identification with a proper state of mind and physical body that sets up realistic and long-term expectations towards own care for persons at any age, and I entitled it a non-killing lifestyle. There is often a misinformation promoted by groups, so-called of the targeted individuals, about what it is to be a targeted individual, what quotas are. And as a graduate of leadership education and neurodevelopmental disorders and patient advocate, as well as a person who has background in medicine, I am by education a physician with a vast training, and then being a personal consultant as well as a group coach in a topic of behavior analysis. I've learned and studied on my own those topics to be able to explain them and use them to the benefit of persons who suffer from often an impression of being remotely, especially victims of harassment, group harassment, or in finding themselves in so-called brackets. Those brackets, from the standpoint of the ecosystem, are derived from so-called killing quota. Every single human and animal, if we look at a map, has so-called quota of death lives, and some attributed to the government. Attribution it to the US government or Canadian government that also functions in European countries. I'm an originate of Poland, for instance, where there are organizations of similar nature, is erroneous. Government does have a quota, but those quotas that have a role in economy are based on economic indicators. Economic indicator, because of so-called, and I've introduced that term, itemization of human life, meaning an equivalent of having price on human head similar to a price to sell a livestock, for example, a pig or a cow, which poses a threat or an illusion of when a person is running out of money or when a person has no salary, no income, of a fear of becoming stripped of all of the belongings and die basically, or asked to make last wills, and also that is often accompanied by forcing persons into social services structures. Those labels of permanent disabilities or chronic disabilities place those brackets. Those brackets consist of most of those diseases that are associated with stress, for instance, change of job, change in age group, change of marital status, change also of educational status. In many times also change, for instance, in possession of I don't know, limbs and or a sight that creates stress. Those are not none of the diseases that exist in this universe is incurable, nor there is a death verdict, because none of the medical arts can with all certainty say we know when you're going to die. This is a fiction. So this is something that I was trained thanks to many of very, very good human rights activists at the University of Texas that put a large emphasis on how we are not supposed to, in primary care especially, and especially also through preventative measures and screening in schools, program persons to expect pathologies as practitioners and also as humans, and not offer own life in exchange of death of others. It sounds to some as something that is on the verge of religiosity. This is a topic of bioethics that indeed is based in religious values. However, these topics have, if there's a conflict, as there was once a quote many times repeated by Dalai Lama, they have to be aligned. They have the same goal with logic. What does this mean? It means that if the moral code is not in alignment with logic, there is some faultiness, meaning there is a misinterpretation that leads to false perception of either the religious context or of the logical context. In this lecture series, I would like to describe what the quota is, and I will make videos that will be around 10 minutes long each, and that will be sold. I would make them available for about between $3 and to rent it between 50 cents to $1, depending on how the content will be concise, and useful. This this income, and you have to all understand that it is not purchasing. Basically, no income is a purchase of existence. There's no money in this world, even for livestock animals, that can purchase life. Humans, we are part of the ecosystem. What does this mean? It means that to save somebody's life, it is illegal both and immoral from the International Declaration of Human Rights standpoint to ask for money to evade death, harm, or fair judgment. So what is killing quota? Killing quota, it is not a death verdict. It is also not something that with time is programmed without remediation, because we have two concepts that we need to understand. One of them is regeneration at any stage of life, in any type of diseases or hardship, as well as regardless of nationality, gender, or country of origins. All of humans, animals, we have a so-called mechanism of regeneration. And from the standpoint of the ecosystem, that similar mechanism of regeneration that affects our genetic code and our faith is called epigenetics. What does this mean? It means that we, each and every single human, we can decide to kill less. From every single day, we make that type of a decision, making enablement for self and others to live up to our maximum capacity, while enabling others to do the same, be it humans, animals, or trees. Some call it sustainability. Sustainability is not often properly explained. If I remove from a forest, cutting off one tree, or from a pond, I kill a salmon, that is not sustainable. We don't use that term to plant a new one or replace by multiplication, so sexual activity of that species, a new salmon. This is a new individual, a new existing life, and then the same, without a confusion, is true for all of us humans. That is then dependent on so-called killing quota, meaning the more a human being as a conjunction denominated Homo sapiens kills, the more we suffer and are wiped out out by epidemias and natural disasters, and more discapacitated, unable to function we become because we are removing too many other species. And that is then a mechanism of compensation of the ecosystem to reduce suffering. There is nothing natural about it. There's often a notion of natural selection perceived as a replaceability of items. Unless I place as a restaurant, for instance, a chain restaurant, an order to take one life or do so on a rooster in states where there is death penalty, there is no such circumstance in which one person or one item is replaced by another that is life. And when we kill and harm, it harms, creates actual physical disability and creates death on a map of the species, such as humans, Homo sapiens, that create suffering and death on to the greatest degree. And that is called epidemiology, ladies and gentlemen. That is why, what is the cure for COVID-19? It is to stop exterminating, torturing and trapping animals to die of complications of obesity and coronary artery disease, and enable agriculture in our area of the United States, promoting health of other species. It seems trivial to some, but it is not. We are not programmed to die unless we keep on killing and harming, and that pain sends a potent message to the ecosystem: human is our enemy, let's destroy it. Thank you very much.